I was inspired by what our three organizers had to say, but a lot of it was focused on the failure of management to trust and to create an environment where workers can step up and do a different kind of work. But essential in that transaction is that workers need to be ready to step up and do a different kind of work, and they need to be eager to do that. And a third of the people in this room are self-employed, and you have a lousy boss. And that boss of yours doesn't even trust you to do the right kind of work, and you're not demanding the privilege of doing the right kind of work. So that's my thesis for today, and I need you to be present for the first 12 minutes of it, because I'm asking a lot for you to put on for a couple minutes a different hat and imagine what that would be like. So, quick, the obligatory history lesson. All of this was invented by Josiah Wedgwood. Josiah Wedgwood invented everything. He invented that blue pottery that your mother-in-law has every time you go over to her house. But Wedgwood pottery was the first thing made in a factory, the first thing trademarked, the first thing made by people doing individual jobs on something that looked like an assembly line. His employees were the first people with health insurance. He invented the retail showroom. He invented selling by commission, and he invented direct mail. He mailed $10,000 worth of pottery to the crowned heads of Europe with a little letter saying, here's half the set, drop me a line if you want to buy the rest of it. What Wedgwood did was enable the industrial economy. It's worth noting that in 1400, the unemployment rate in Europe was 0. And the reason it was 0 is there were no jobs. They hadn't invented jobs yet. That what you did was farm, or do a little thing in your village, or work for the king, but you didn't have a boss who had a boss who was telling you to do a job today with a stopwatch, which led, of course, to Henry Ford and led to Frederick Taylor. And I've decided that my mission going forward is this anti-Taylorist thing, which is maybe we need to get out of the entire mindset of saying that what work is about is creating a scarce good faster and cheaper. Because we can't go any faster, we can't make it any cheaper, and scarcity isn't important. There are some things that are scarce that we need to be really aware of, energy and food, particularly for the underprivileged world. That's not what I'm talking about. But I am talking about the fact that you can choose an unlimited number of shoes. You can choose an unlimited number of kinds of wine. You can choose an unlimited number of restaurants. And if you're in the privileged world, there's choice everywhere. And creating this false scarcity is getting harder and harder to do. But more important, that the internet economy creates a benefit to abundance. Because abundance, the abundance of choice, an unlimited number of people to follow on Twitter, an unlimited number of ideas online, an unlimited number of articles in Wikipedia, all of this abundance creates a different byproduct that creates a different kind of value. Now, economics has as its meaning underneath it, the word economics in whatever, Greek, Latin, I can't remember where it comes from, means scarcity, right? And so we need a different kind of economics that's based on abundance. So, where do we take this? We start by understanding that it used to be really, really hard to make almost anything. And I'll just use my personal experience. In 1992, when I was running my internet company, sending 5,000 or 10,000 emails in a single day was considered a huge achievement. It would, servers, I saw a server burst into flames, literally, because stuff like that was hard. And it was really hard to imagine coming up with a design and having it made on a machine. Today, it's all Lego. Everything can plug into everything else. MailChimp will deliver 5,000 emails for you for 12 cents, if that, right? That if you can design something on your laptop, you can press a button, send it to China, and get 10,000 of them back in 4 weeks. That all of a sudden, the act of making an idea come true is easier than ever. And the kind of people who are hauling iron ore and working in extremely arduous circumstances aren't the people in this room, right? That what we have done is outsourced, whether it's in this country or other countries, all of that stuff we used to think of as hard work. And so there's a new kind of hard work on offer, and many of us, because we've been indoctrinated and because we've been brainwashed, are avoiding it assiduously. And it's not the physical labor of hard work, and it's not the exhausting labor of 12 or 14-hour days. It is the draining work of emotional labor. And emotional labor is the hard work of not checking your Twitter feed when you're working on something else. And emotional labor is the hard work of looking someone in the eye and telling them the truth even though it hurts you in the short run. And emotional labor is the act of saying, here, I made this. And knowing that when you say, here, I made this, it is entirely possible that the other person will say, I hate it, or you're a fraud, or how dare you, or what right do you have? There are 100 people here today, all of you glad to be here, and 3 people who had the guts to organize it. But any of you could have organized it, and you didn't. And you didn't because it was scary and frightening and didn't match what we learned in 3rd grade and 5th grade and 9th grade about what it was to do work. Like, well, is it your job? Were you assigned to organize this conference? How are you going to make money from organizing this conference? Where's the short-term cycle? What if no one comes? What if no one comes? And so we spend hours in anxiety experiencing failure in advance. Hours saying, I'm living through that day that they're standing here in this thing and there's 3 people here. Which didn't happen, but we experienced it and experienced it and experienced it while we're organizing. You know, I got a note yesterday from someone who had tried to organize a conference and it failed. No one signed up. And she said, I'm sorry, you know, I signed a contract with you, but I'm not going to pay you any money. And I sent her back a note of congratulations. Because how wonderful that given this fork in the road between should I do something safe or something risky, she was the 1 in 1,000 that said, I'm going to do something risky. And the magic is, it wasn't that risky, right? Because what bad thing actually happened to her? Not much. And so when we say, you want to write, write. You want to do poetry, do poetry. You want to sing, sing. Here's a microphone. Everyone's saying, no, I'd rather just write 140 characters because it's safer. And almost everyone who uses Twitter doesn't even tweet. They just read other people's tweets and sometimes retweet them because it's safer. And that's what we learned to do. So, simple example. Go ahead and raise your right hand as high as you can, please. Now, please raise it higher. What's that about? You know, the instructions were really clear, but you held back. And that's what you got trained to do when you were 3 and 6 and 9 and 12 and 15 and an adult. Because a coach or a trainer or a teacher or a boss is going to see what you did and say, well, give me a little bit more. So deep down, we understand the relationship between student and teacher and employee and boss, which is hold a little bit back, do a little bit less, so you can have something in reserve for delivering that thing in a world of scarcity. All right, so let me veer a little bit. I just got the best bike in the world, which is made in Australia. And the thing is, I have to ride a weird bike because my neck doesn't work right, so it's a recumbent. You may have seen those guys on the West Side Highway. And this recumbent, unlike other recumbents, my old recumbent has a chain this long because it goes from your feet over here to the rear wheel. This one has a chain this long because it goes from your feet to the front wheel, which is really cool, except it means you have to pedal and steer with your feet, which is weird, right? And so when you first start doing it, you can go 5 or 6 or 7 miles an hour. And when you start going a little faster, the bike wobbles. And it wobbles because with each mash of your foot, you're going left and right and left and right. And as you gain more speed, the wobble hits. And I was going downhill and I hit like 12 and I'm really wobbling. And you're thinking, if it wobbles a little bit more like than this, I'm in really bad shape. And so you back off. But the only way to get better at riding this bike is to wobble, right? And that is the only way to do the work that we're talking about. It has nothing to do with lava lamps and free food, and has nothing to do with what the boss does. It has to do with our willingness to wobble. And when you're in the wobble, it means you can't be pushing against the wall or leaning against something else or blaming it on someone else. It's this moment where you're saying, I have signed up for this thing that I haven't done before. That is not based on me working more hours. It is based on me making more connection. And that will always be fraught with all of the things Brene Brown and others talk about, this feeling of shame that we're going to get called out. Because how can we prove that we are an expert at genuinely connecting with this person? We have never done it before. Right? There is no dummy's guide. There is no manual. You can't say, you get an A at that, and you get a C, but if you study harder, you can get an A. It's about being human. And so when I think about what it means to recreate work, sorry, I've been fighting a cold here. I think what it says is the high value work is no longer going to be that you were lucky enough to be a middle manager who got picked from a famous college because you did well on the SATs, because you went to a high school where they practiced a lot to do well on the SATs, so you can go to a famous college, so you can go to the placement office, so you can get that job where you move paper from one stack to another and get paid 6 figures to do so. Those jobs are all going away. And instead, the new work says, we need you to wrestle not with your boss, but with the voice in the back of your head. Steve Pressfield's resistance, the lizard brain, the heckler, the voice that says, you're not entitled, the one that creates writer's block, right? The one that freaks out when you see your boss's name on the caller ID on your phone, the one that made the BlackBerry a successful product in the first place because you can check to make sure everything's okay, right? Then when we come to grips with that voice in our head, we can get down to what we're supposed to do, which is this thing I'll call art. Not painting, but the art of making a connection with someone else. Doing something that hasn't been done before, something that might not work. And being able to stand up, and I hope when you leave here today, it's such a beautiful day, 3 blocks over on the corner, I think, of 24th and 10th, I passed on my way here, is a Getty station. And I'm walking past the Getty station, and I guess it opened just a few days ago, and it's covered with sod. And there are sheep grazing in the Getty station now. And 2 artists turned it into an art exhibit, right? Now you say, well, how do you make money doing that? I don't know whether you will make money doing that. I know you could possibly make a connection doing that. I know you could I saw grizzled cab drivers standing there with their jaws open looking at this thing, experiencing a piece of art in a way that they had never experienced it before. And a feeling is created. And so if you're worried about paying the rent, you could probably figure out how to pay the rent by working 2 jobs doing what you were told. Or you could say, this is the chance of a lifetime. This is the only moment we're going to have where we can say, how much connection can I make? How many people can I bring together and elevate and open the door for? And I guess I'll finish my rant by saying this. There's so much passion and education and chops and skill in this room that there's no doubt that you're going to succeed. The question is, do you care enough to matter? And what it means to matter is to challenge yourself, not the system, and realize that there's no one standing in the way of you bringing this work, this scary work to the world, if you choose to do so. Thanks a lot.